Just then the door opened quietly, and a certain young girl entered the room, looking timidly around her. They all turned towards her in surprise and curiosity. It took Raskolnikov a glance or two before he recognized her. It was Sofia Semyonovna Marmeladova. He had seen her the evening before, but such had been the moment, the surroundings, and the manner of her dress, that his memory had retained the image of someone very different. Now she was modestly and even poorly dressed, and she looked very young, almost like a little girl, with a modest and demure manner and a clear but rather frightened-looking face. She was wearing a very plain little house dress, and on her head there was an old-fashioned bonnet of a kind that is no longer worn. The only item of yesterday's costume was the parasol, which she held in one hand. Having suddenly realized that the room was full of people, she was less embarrassed than completely at a loss, as intimidated as a small child, and she even made a movement as if to go away again. "Oh, it's you!" Raskolnikov said, extremely surprised, and was suddenly himself thrown off balance. It immediately occurred to him that his mother and sister must already have picked up some knowledge in passing from Lucin's letter about an unmarried woman of immoral conduct. Only just now he had been protesting against Lucin's slanderous remarks, mentioning that he had seen the woman for the first time on the day in question, and now here she was. He remembered, too, that he had raised no protest against Lucin's use of the expression of immoral conduct. All this slipped through his head obscurely in an instant. Giving her a closer look, however, he suddenly perceived that this humiliated creature was so humble that he felt sorry for her. And when she made that movement to flee in terror, something in him seemed to turn over. "I wasn't expecting you at all," he said hurriedly, stopping her with his gaze. "Please, be so good as to sit down. I expect you've come from Katerina Ivanovna. No, not over there. Please sit there." When Sonia had come in, Razumikin, who was sitting on one of Raskolnikov's 3 chairs, right beside the door, had got up in order to allow her into the room. At first Raskolnikov had been about to ask her to sit down in the corner of the sofa where Zosimov had sat, but reflecting that this sofa was rather too familiar a spot, yes, it served him as a bed, he hastily directed her to Razumikin's chair. "And you sit here," he said to Razumikin, motioning to him to sit down in the corner Zosimov had occupied. Sonia sat down, almost shivering with terror, and gave the 2 ladies a timid look. It was evident that she herself had not the faintest idea of how she could possibly have sat down beside them. Having pondered this, she grew so frightened that she suddenly got up again, and in complete confusion turned to Raskolnikov. I've only dropped in for a moment. Forgive me for disturbing you," she said falteringly. "I've come from Katerina Ivanovna. There was no one else she could send. She told me to say that she would be very glad if you'd come to the funeral tomorrow morning, for the service at the Mitrofaniev cemetery, and then to our home, to her home, afterwards, to take some food. You'd be doing her an honour. She told me to ask you." Sonia faltered and was silent. "I'll certainly see if I can." "Certainly," Raskolnikov replied, who had also got up and was also faltering, his sentence unfinished. "Look, do me the favour of sitting down," he said suddenly. "I want to talk to you. Please, I know you're probably in a hurry, but do me this favour and give me 2 minutes of your time." And he moved up a chair for her. Sonia sat down again, gave the 2 ladies a quick look of timid embarrassment, and suddenly lowered her gaze. Raskolnikov's pale face flushed. He seemed to convulse all over. His eyes caught fire. "Mother," he said firmly and insistently, "this is Sofia Semyonovna Marmeladova, the daughter of poor Mr. Marmeladov, the man whom I saw run down by the horses yesterday, and whom I've already told you about." Pulcheria Alexandrovna glanced at Sonia and narrowed her eyes at her slightly. In spite of all her confusion before Rodya's insistent and challenging stare, she could on no account deny herself this satisfaction. Dunya had battened her gaze earnestly and directly on the poor girl's face, and was examining her with perplexity. On hearing the introduction, Sonia looked up again, but this time grew even more embarrassed. "What I wanted to ask you," Raskolnikov said, turning to her, "is how you've managed to cope with things today. Have you had any trouble? From the police, for example?" "No, sir, it all went... it's only too plain to see what caused his death. No one's given us any trouble, except the other lodgers. They're angry with us." "Why?" "Because the body's lying out too long. It's so hot just now, there's a smell. So they're taking it to the cemetery today, before Vespers, to lie in the chapel until tomorrow. Katerina Ivanovna didn't want them to do that at first, but now she sees herself it won't do." "So they're moving it today, are they?" "Yes, and she wants you to do us the honour of coming to the funeral service in the church tomorrow, and then attending the funeral repast at her home." "She's arranging the funeral repast?" "Yes, sir. Some zakuski. She told me to thank you very much for coming to our assistance yesterday. If it hadn't been for you, we'd never even have been able to find the money to bury him." Both her lips and her chin suddenly began to dance. But she mastered and restrained herself, quickly lowering her eyes to the ground again. During the course of their conversation, Raskolnikov studied her fixedly. This was a thin, very thin and pale little face, rather irregular and sharp, with a sharp, small nose and chin. One could certainly not have called her pretty, but on the other hand her blue eyes were so clear, and when they grew animated the expression of her face became so kind and open-hearted that one felt oneself involuntarily drawn to her. There was about her face, moreover, as about all the rest of her, one peculiar distinguishing feature. In spite of her 18 years, she still looked more or less like a little girl, far younger than she was, almost a complete child, and occasionally in some of her movements this made itself absurdly evident. "But can Katerina Ivanovna really manage all this on such limited means? She's even planning zakuski?" Raskolnikov asked, insistently continuing the conversation. "Well, the coffin's to be a simple one, sir, and the whole thing will be simple, so it won't cost much. Katerina Ivanovna and I worked it all out earlier on, so there'd be enough left for a meal in his memory. And Katerina Ivanovna very much wants there to be one. One can't... that consolation, that's the way she is, sir. You know her." I understand. Of course. Why are you staring at my room like that? You know, my mother says it looks like a coffin." "You gave us all the money you had yesterday," Sonia said suddenly, by way of reply, in a loud, hurried whisper, and then, with equal suddenness, lowered her eyes as far as she could. Her lips and chin began to dance again. Ever since she'd come in, she'd been struck by Raskolnikov's impoverished surroundings, and now these words broke from her suddenly of their own accord. A silence ensued. Dunya's eyes brightened a little, and Pulcheria Alexandrovna even gave Sonia a friendly look. "Rodya," she said, getting up, "it goes without saying that we'll have dinner together. Come along, Dunya, and you ought to go out for a bit of walk. Rodya, after that, have a rest, lie down for a while, and then come to us as soon as you can. Otherwise, I'm afraid we'll have tired you out." Yes, I'll come," he replied, getting up and starting to bustle about. "Actually, there's some business I have to attend to." "I say, you're not going to have dinner on your own, are you?" Razumikin exclaimed, looking at Raskolnikov in astonishment. "What are you up to?" Yes, I'll come. Don't worry. Anyway, I want you to stay for a minute. After all, you don't need him right now, do you, Mother? Or am I perhaps depriving you of him?" "Oh, no. Now then, Dmitri Prokofitch, you will come and dine with us too, won't you?" "Please do," Dunya said entreatingly. Razumikin bowed, beaming all over. For a moment, they all suddenly grew strangely embarrassed. "Goodbye, Rodya, or rather, until we meet. I don't like saying goodbye. Goodbye, Nastasia. Oh, there, I said it again. Pulcheria Alexandrovna intended to bow to Sonia as well, but somehow failed to get round to it, and made a bustled exit from the room. Avdotia Romanovna, on the other hand, had evidently been awaiting her turn, and as she walked past Sonia in the wake of her mother, made her an attentive, polite, and completely formed bow. Sonia grew flustered, bowed back in a hurried, frightened sort of way, and a look of pain appeared in her features, as though she had found Avdotia Romanovna's politeness and attention distressful and tormenting. "Goodbye, Danya," Raskolnikov shouted, when they were already out on the stairs. "Give me your hand." "But I've already given it to you, remember?" Danya replied, turning round to face him affectionately and awkwardly. "Never mind, let me take it again." And he squeezed her fingers tightly. Dunya smiled at him, blushed, and quickly extricated her hand from his and followed her mother downstairs, also for some reason thoroughly happy. "Well, there's a glorious thought," he said to Sonia as he came back to his room, giving her a bright look. "May the Lord grant rest to the souls of the dead, and let life be the realm of the living. That's right, isn't it? Isn't it? Don't you think so?" Sonia looked at his suddenly brightened features with positive wonderment. For a few split seconds he stared at her silently and fixedly. At that moment all the things her dead father had told him about her suddenly passed through his memory. "Oh, good heavens, Dunechka!" Pulcheria Alexandrovna said as soon as they were out in the street. "Why, I really think I'm glad we left. I feel easier somehow. Well, I must say that as I sat in the train I never dreamt I'd feel this sort of relief." "I tell you again, Mother, he's still very ill. Can't you see it? It may be that worrying about us has upset him. We must try to be tolerant, then we'll be able to forgive him a great many things." "Well, you haven't been doing very well at being tolerant, have you?" Pulcheria Alexandrovna at once interrupted with fervid jealousy. "You know, Dunya, I was watching you both just now. You're the completely likeness of him, not so much in your features as in your soul. You're both melancholics, both gloomy and liable to flare up, both overweening and both generous. I couldn't just be that he's an egotist, Dunechka. Hey, oh, when I think of what may happen at our lodgings this evening, my heart stops beating." "Don't worry yourself, Mother. What will be, will be." "Dunechka! But just think of the situation we're in now. What if Pyotr Petrovitch withdraws his suit?" Poor Pulcheria Alexandrovna suddenly said incautiously. "And what would he be worth after that?" Dunya replied sharply and contemptuously. "We did the right thing in leaving just now," Pulcheria Alexandrovna broke in at once quickly. "He was hurrying off somewhere on business. Let him get out and do some walking, breathe some air. It's horribly stuffy in that place of his. Though where he's going to find air here? These streets are just like rooms without ventilators. God, what a town!" "Oh, wait, look out, you'll be crushed. Those people are carrying something. Why, it's a piano they're carrying, I do believe. How they're pushing one another. That young lady makes me very frightened." "What young lady, Mother?" "That one, that Sofia Semyonovna, who was just with us just now." "Why?" "I have a sort of premonition, Dunya. Believe it or not, as soon as she walked in just then I thought, she's at the bottom of it all." "She's not at the bottom of anything," Dunya exclaimed in vexation. "You and your premonitions, Mother. He only met her yesterday, and when she walked in just now he didn't even recognise her." "Well, you wait and see. She worries me. You'll see, you'll see." And what a fright she gave me, looking at me with those eyes of hers. I could hardly stay in my chair. Do you remember when he started to introduce her? And I find it strange that Pyotr Petrovitch should have written the way he did about her in his letter. Yet he introduced her to us, and to you as well. That means he must be attached to her." "Oh, he writes all sorts of things. He said them about us too, and put them in his letters to people. Or have you forgotten? I'm sure she's perfectly all right, and that all these things you're saying are nonsense." "I hope to God you're right." "And Pyotr Petrovitch is a worthless gossip-monger," Dunya suddenly snapped out. Pulcheria Alexandrovna fairly wilted. The conversation broke off. "Look, this is what I want to talk to you about," Raskolnikov said, drawing Razumikin over to the window. "So I'll tell Katerina Ivanovna you're coming?" Sonia said quickly, bowing in order to leave. "Just one moment, Sofya Semyonovna. We have no secrets. You're not intruding on us. There are a couple of other things I'd like to say to you. Look," he said suddenly, not finishing his sentence, turning back to Razumikin, as though tearing himself away. "You know that fellow, what's his name? Porfiry Petrovitch?" "I should think I do. He's a relative of mine. Why do you ask about him?" Razumikin added, with a small explosion of curiosity. "Well, yesterday you said that he's in charge of this case. You know, this murder business." "Yes, and?" "You said he'd been questioning the people who had pawned things with the old woman. Well, I pawned some stuff with her too, just rubbish. But there's a ring of my sister's, which she gave me as a keepsake when I left for St. Petersburg, and a silver watch that belonged to my father. They're worth more than 5 or 6 roubles in all, but they're precious to me for the memories they contain. Now, what am I to do? I don't want to lose those objects, particularly the watch. I was terribly afraid that Mother might ask to have a look at it when we began talking about Dumechka's watch. It's the only thing of Father's that's left in the family. She'll make herself ill if it gets lost. Oh, women! So what am I to do? Tell me. I know I ought to go to the police station, but wouldn't it be better if I just went to see Porfiry? Eh? What do you think? I want to get the matter sorted out quickly. I want to get it sorted. You'll see, Mother will ask me for that watch before dinner." "On no account go to the police station. By all means go and see Porfiry," Razumikin exclaimed, in a state of uncommon excitement. "What a relief! Hang it all, let's go there now. It's only a couple of yards away. We're sure to find him in." "Very likely. Yes, let's. And he'll be very, very, very pleased to meet you. I've told him a lot of things about you at various times. I was talking to him about you just yesterday. Come on. So you knew the old woman, did you? Ha! This is all turning out most marvellously. Oh, yes. Sofya Ivanovna." "Sofya Semyonovna," Raskolnikov said, correcting him. "Sofya Semyonovna, this is my friend Razumikin, and he's a good man." "If you have to go now," Sonia began, not looking at Razumikin at all, and becoming even more embarrassed as a result. "Come on, let's be off," Raskolnikov said decisively. "I shall come and see you today, Sofya Semyonovna, only you'll have to tell me where you live." He was less disconcerted than in a kind of hurry, and he avoided her gaze. Sonia gave him her address, blushing as she did so, and they all went out together. "Don't you bother to lock your door?" asked Razumikin, coming down the stairs after them. "Never. Actually, I've been meaning to buy a lock these past 2 years," he added casually. "The people who've nothing to lock up are the happy ones, aren't they?" he said, turning to Sonia and laughing. When they got outside, they stopped at the gates. "Is it off to the right you go, Sofya Semyonovna? Incidentally, how did you manage to find me?" he asked, in a way that suggested he really wanted to say something quite different to her. He kept wanting to look into her clear, quiet eyes, and this aim somehow kept eluding him. "Oh, you gave Polechka your address yesterday." "Polya? Oh, yes, Polechka, that little girl. She's your sister. So I gave her my address, did I?" "Do you really not remember?" "Oh, yes, I do. And I heard about you from my poor father at that time. Only I didn't know your name then, and neither did he. I came here today, and since I'd found out your name yesterday, I asked, 'Does Mr. Raskolnikov live here?' Not knowing that you were a lodger too. Goodbye, sir. I'll tell Katerina Ivanovna." She was immensely relieved to have finally got away. She hurried off with her eyes lowered, anxious to get out of their sight, to cover those 20 yards as quickly as possible, and then turn along the street to the right, and be at last on her own. And then, as she walked on her way, making haste, not looking at anyone, paying no attention to anything, to think, remembering, considering each word that had been spoken, each circumstance of the situation. Never had she experienced anything like this before. An entire new world had settled mysteriously and dimly on her soul. She suddenly remembered that Raskolnikov had said he would come to see her today, perhaps this very morning, perhaps right now. "Oh, not today, please, not today," she murmured, with a trembling of her heart, as if she were imploring someone like a child that is frightened. "Oh, merciful Lord, to my lodgings, to that room. He'll see. Oh, merciful Lord." So it was hardly surprising that she failed to notice a certain gentleman, not of her acquaintance, who at that moment had his gaze assiduously fixed upon her, and was following close on her heels. He had been following her ever since she had emerged from the gateway. Just as all three of them, Razumikin, Raskolnikov, and herself, had stopped for a couple of words on the pavement, this passer-by had suddenly seemed to give a start as he made a way around them, and in so doing unexpectedly caught Sonia's words. "I asked, does Mr. Raskolnikov live here?" Quickly but attentively he examined all three, in particular Raskolnikov, to whom Sonia had been speaking. Then he looked at the building and seemed to make a note of it. All this had happened within the space of an instant, on the move, and the passer-by, desirous of remaining unnoticed, had walked on, slowing his pace and apparently waiting for something. What he was waiting for was Sonia. He had realized that they were saying goodbye to one another, and that Sonia was just about to return to wherever it was she lived. "I wonder where that is. I'm sure I've seen that face before," he thought, as he recalled Sonia's features. "I must find out." When he reached the turning, he crossed to the other side of the street, swung round, and observed that Sonia was now coming along the same way he had come, oblivious to everything. Sure enough, upon reaching the same turning, she entered the street in which he stood. He set off after her, keeping his eyes fixed on her from the opposite pavement. Having gone some 50 yards or so, he crossed back to the side of the street along which Sonia was making her way, caught her up, and began to walk behind her at a distance of about 5 paces. He was a man of about 50, of somewhat above average height, with broad, perpendicular shoulders that gave him a slightly stooping appearance. He was dressed in stylish comfort, and looked like a portly aristocrat. In one of his hands he held an elegant walking stick, which he tapped on the pavement with each step he took, and those hands wore freshly laundered gloves. His broad, high cheek-boned face was pleasant enough, and its complexion was a fresh one of a kind one does not often encounter in St. Petersburg. His hair, still very thick, was entirely blonde, with the merest hint of grey here and there, and his wide, thick beard, which descended in a square shovel shape, was even fairer than the hair on his head. His eyes were blue and had a cold, fixed and reflective look. His lips were bright red. All in all, he was a remarkably well-preserved man who looked much younger than his years. When Sonia came out onto the canal, they found themselves together on the pavement. As he watched her, he had time to notice her pensive, distracted air. On reaching the building where she lived, Sonia turned in at the gates, and he walked in after her, somewhat surprised. Entering the courtyard, she turned right towards the corner of it, which housed the entrance of the staircase that led up to her lodgings. "Aha!" muttered the unknown aristocrat, began to make his way up the stairs behind her. Only then did Sonia notice him. She reached the 3rd floor, turned off down the connecting passage, and rang the doorbell of apartment number 9, on the door of which was chalked Kapernaum, tailor. "Aha!" the stranger said again, surprised by the odd coincidence, and rang the bell of apartment number 8, next door. The 2 doors were some 6 yards distant from each other. "You live at Kapernaumov's," he said, looking at Sonia and laughing. "You altered a waistcoat for me yesterday. Well, I live here next door to you, in the home of Madame Resslich, Gertruda Karlovna, you know, such is fate." Sonia gave him a close look. We're neighbours, he went on, in a voice that was for some reason particularly cheerful. I mean, I've been in town for 3 days. Well, goodbye for now. Sonia did not reply. The door opened and she slipped through to her room. For some reason she felt ashamed, and she even looked frightened. As they made their way to Porphyry's, Razumikin was in an especially excited frame of mind. "This is marvellous, brother," he said several times. How relieved I am." "What are you so relieved at?" Raskolnikov wondered to himself. "I mean, I had no idea you'd also pawned things with the old woman. And how long ago was this? I mean, how long ago was it that you went to see her?" What a naive fool, Raskolnikov thought. "Now, when was it?" he said out loud, pausing as he tried to remember. "Yes, I think I went to see her about 3 days before she died. By the way, I'm not going there in order to redeem the objects now," he interposed, with a special kind of hurried concern about the objects. "I mean, I've only got 1 rouble in silver to my name. All because of that damned delirium I had yesterday." As he mentioned the delirium, he made his voice sound particularly emphatic. Yes, Razumikin agreed hurriedly, and for no apparent reason. "And that's why you were so taken aback, so to speak. And you know, even in your delirium you kept going on about some rings and chains and things. Yes, it all makes sense. All makes sense now." So that's it, Raskolnikov thought. That's how far that idea has worked its way among them. I mean, this man would go to Calvary for my sake. Yet even he's thoroughly relieved that it's been cleared up why I kept mentioning those rings when I was delirious. That's the kind of hold it's got on them all. "But will he be in?" he asked suddenly. He will, Razumikin hurried to reassure him. "He's a marvellous fellow, brother. You'll see. He's a bit clumsy. Oh, he's a man of the world, all right. But I mean clumsy in another sense. He's a clever chap with a lot of common sense even, only he has a rather peculiar cast of mind. He's suspicious, a sceptic, a cynic. He likes to hoodwink people. Oh, I don't really mean hoodwink. It's more like he likes to make fools of them. You know, the old material method. And he knows his job. He knows it all right. There was one case he cleared up last year, concerning a murder, in which nearly all the clues had been lost. He's very, very, very anxious to make your acquaintance." "Why all the verys?" "Oh, that's not that he... just recently, see, when you were ill, I often and repeatedly found myself mentioning you. Well, he used to listen. When he found out that you're in the law faculty and are unable to finish your course because of your financial circumstances, he said, 'What a pity!' And I concluded, well, taking it all together, I mean, it wasn't just that. There's something else as well. Yesterday, Zamyotov... look, Roger, I said a lot of silly things to you when I was drunk yesterday and we were going home. Well, brother, I'm scared you may have blown them up out of all proportion, you see." "What's all this about? You mean this business about them thinking I'm insane?" "Well, perhaps they're right." He smiled a thin, ironic smile. Yes, damn it. I mean, no. Well, everything I said, including whatever I said about that other business, well, it's all nonsense and the result of my hangover." "Oh, why do you keep apologising? I'm getting really fed up with all this," Raskolnikov shouted with exaggerated irritability. He was indeed, to a certain extent, pretending. I know, I understand. Please believe me, I understand. I'm even ashamed to talk about it." "Well, don't then." They both fell silent. Razumikin was in a state bordering upon ecstasy, and Raskolnikov sensed this with disgust. He was also alarmed by the things Razumikin had just said about Porphyry. "I'll have to complain about my lot to this fellow too," he thought, turning pale, his heart thumping, "and make it sound natural. The most natural thing would be to say nothing at all along those lines. Make damned sure I don't say anything. No, but that would also be unnatural. Well, we'll soon see how things turn out when we get there. Is it a good thing I'm going there? Or isn't it? The moth flies to the candle flame of its own accord. My heart's thumping, that's the worst of it." "It's this grey building," Razumikin said. "What matters most of all is whether Porphyry knows I went to that old witch's apartment yesterday and asked about the blood. I must find that out immediately, right at the start, as soon as I go in. Find it out by the expression on his face. Otherwise, I'm done for. You know what, brother, he said suddenly, turning to Razumikin with a mischievous smile. I've noticed that ever since this morning you've been in a state of extraordinary excitement. True? What do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about. Razumikin winced. Oh, no, brother, that's no good. It's too obvious. You were sitting on your chair back there just now in a way you never normally do. You were sitting right on the edge of it, and you kept having minor convulsions. You jumped to your feet for no apparent reason. 1 minute you were angry, and the next your ugly mug would mysteriously turn as sweet as toffee. You even blushed, especially when they asked you to dinner. You turned horribly red. I never did. That's nonsense. What are you driving at anyway? For heaven's sake, you're cringing like a schoolboy. My God, there he is, blushing again. Oh, you are a swine. What are you embarrassed about? Romeo? You just wait. I tell a few people about this today. I'll make mother laugh, and someone else as well. Listen. I mean, this is serious. What are you trying to say, you devil? Razumikin said in confusion, turning cold with horror. What will you tell them? You know, brother, what a swine you are. Like a rose in springtime, and how it suits you, if only you knew. A Romeo 7 feet tall. I say, you have washed yourself nicely today. Cleaned your fingernails, eh? I've never known you do that before. My God, you've even pomaded your hair. Come on, let me see. Bend down. You swine! Raskolnikov was laughing so hard that it seemed he'd never stop, and thus it was with laughter that they entered Porfiry Petrovitch's apartment. That was what Raskolnikov had wanted. From the room within it could be heard that they had been laughing as they came in, and were still guffawing as they stood in the entrance hall. Not another word in here, or I'll smash your skull, Razumikin whispered in fury, seizing Raskolnikov by the shoulder.